Hey everyone, my name is Abhishek and today we are going to create this 3D text with some plant texture on it. We will use Blender for this and it's very easy to create. So let's begin. Now in order to create these kind of animations, we are going to use a free add-on called Biome Reader and we are going to use this plant library which is also free. You can download both of these things from Blender Market. I will put a link in the description from where you can download these. You can download the plant library from here and you can also download the Biome Reader by simply clicking on this button, and after that it will take you to this page. You can enter in your details and after submitting you will download the plugin. So once you have downloaded everything, you have to install them. Now the installation is very simple, but there are a couple of steps that you have to follow. So after downloading everything, you can just scroll down this page and at the very end you can see that we have this video tutorial on how to get started. So watching this, you can easily install the library and the plugin. So once you're done with this, you can open up Blender and you can follow along. Alright, so right now I'm in Blender and I've already installed the Biome Reader and the plant library. And once you are done with this, you can follow along. So at this corner, you will be able to see all the keyboard shortcuts that I am pressing in case I forget to mention anything. So first we will begin by selecting everything. So you can press A and then X and let's delete everything. So we will add our text first. So let's press Shift A and let's go to text. After that, I'm going to press Tab and you can type whatever character you want. You can also type full text, something like animation or whatever your name. For this one, I'm going to just simply type A. After that, let's press Tab again. So to go out of the edit mode. Now let's select the font options from here. So first I'm going to align this to the center vertically and something like this. So after this, I'm going to scale this up. So I'm going to press S and let's press 3 to scale this 3 times. Now let's quickly select this and press R X 90 degree. Now I'm going to change its font, but it's completely up to you. You can pick whatever font you want. I'm going to pick this Montserrat black font, something like this. So once you're done with this, we can add some 3D geometry to this. So in order to do that, let's select this and let's go under the geometry. And from here we can extrude this out. So it's completely up to you. You can extrude it to however depth you want. For this one, I'm going to set this to something like 0.1. So once you're done with this, we are pretty much done with our text. And our next step is to convert this into a mesh. But before that, I would recommend you to create a backup for this. So in order to do that, let's select this, press Shift D to create a copy. So you can see that we have 2 text layer and I'm going to select this one and let's hide this from both the viewport and the render. Now we can focus on this one. Since this is a text layer, now we are going to convert this into a mesh. So in order to do that, make sure that the layer is selected. Now press F3 on your keyboard and search for convert. So here you can see that we have this option to convert it into a mesh. So if I click on this, you can see that now our object is converted into a mesh. So we are ready to add some plants to this. Now let's open up the Biome Reader. So in order to do that, just press N on your keyboard to access this side panel. From here you can see we have this Biome Reader add-on. First we are going to select the emitter. So you can select this drop down and let's just pick this object. So once you're done with this, let's open this up to have a little bit of space. And after that, in order to access the library, just click on Open Biomes. And after that, it will open up the library. And from here, you can easily access whatever you want. You can see that we have a bunch of different grasses and different type of scenes. So it's completely up to you. You can pick whatever you want. For this one, I'm going to use this grass 11. So just click on this plus icon and you can see that it will start importing. And once it is done, you can probably close this up and you can see that it has added all the plants and grasses to our mesh. So first you can see that everything is looking very big. So in order to fix this, what we have to do is we can apply the scale. So let's press Ctrl A and from here let's apply the scale. So you can see that everything will shrink down. Now we can play around with individual elements. You can see that we have these red flowers, we have these white flowers and we have the grass. So all of these are available in this list. So you can see that we have individual control on all of them. We can hide whatever we want. So before we proceed, a lot of you watching right now have not subscribed to my channel and I want you to please do that because I want to hit 100k subscribers this year on my channel. So make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon. So let's continue. So we will begin by selecting the grass pattern and from here you can see we have a bunch of different options like density, scale. So in order to make this smaller, you can just lower down the scale to something like 0.5 and now we can play around with the density to increase the amount. So I'm going to set this to something like 300. So you can see that we have a bunch of different grasses and these are quite small in size. Again, if you want, you can play around with the density. Let's set this to 500 to completely make this opaque. So you can see that now all of the areas are covered. In the same way, you can play around with other elements as well. So let's select these red flowers. Now again, you can control the density, something like this. And if you want, you can play around with the scale. So I'm going to just make them a little bit smaller. And I'm going to set the density to something like 40. And over here, you can see we have this option for pattern, and I'm going to uncheck this. So now you can see that our flowers are evenly distributed. Now again, we can play around with the density to make them less, something like this. And you can play around with the scale as well, just like that. Now let's select the white flowers which we have over here. And over here again, we can play around with the density. We can increase this, or we can just lower them down. We can also play around with their size, just like this. So here you can see we have a bunch of different elements. So once you're happy with this, let's add some lights to our scene. So we can go to the rendered view just by clicking over here. You can see that it will take some time to load all the materials, just like this. So once you are in the rendered view, let's open up the rendering settings. And for this one, you can either use Eevee or cycles, but cycle gives much better results. So I'm going to change the rendering engine to cycles. And after that, I'm going to change this from CPU to GPU compute. So once you're done with this, we are ready to add some lights to our scene. First, I'm going to go under the world tab, and I'm going to set the strength to 0. Now I can press N on the keyboard to hide this for now. Let's add some lights to our scene. So for that, press Shift A. Let's open up light, and let's add an area light. And I'm going to select this, press GZ. Let's move this to the top, and let's scale this up quite a bit, just like this. Now let's go under the light property, and I'm going to increase its power. So I'm going to set this to something like 10,000. So here you can see we have the light, and it's way too bright. For that, I'm going to just scale this up, and we are going to place this somewhere in the back over here. So for that, I'm going to just press GZ, and let's move this to the top. Now we can go to the side view just by clicking over here, or you can press numpad 3 on your keyboard. Now let's press G, and let's move it to the side. Now press R to rotate it, just like this. Now we can also press 1 on the keyboard, numpad 1, to go to the front view. We can press G to move it to the side, and let's press R to rotate it so that the light is falling onto this edge. Now we can also add a camera for now. So press Shift A. Let's add a camera. After that, you can press N to get the item view. Now from here, I'm going to set the X rotation to 90, and rest I'm going to set everything to 0. So here you can see we have the camera, and I'm going to move it to the Y space, just like this. So now you can press numpad 0 to get inside the camera, and you can see that we have this very nice lighting behind. But I want my camera to be at an angle. So for that, we can go under the view. Let's enable the camera to view. Now you can just move around, and let's place it somewhere around here. Now this angle looks good for me. You can see that we have this very nice lighting at this side, but we have no lights in the front. So let's quickly add that. So press Shift A, and let's add a light. Let's add an area light. Again, let's press S to scale this up. Let's press GZ to move this up, just like this. Again, we are going to increase the intensity. So I'm going to set this to 500 for now. Let's go out of the camera, and we are going to quickly, let's make this smaller, just like this, and let's select the light, and I'm going to just place it to the front. So let's move and just play around with its angle and position. So here you can see now the light is falling onto our front side. Again, you can play around with the intensity, and I'm going to set this to something like 1000, or maybe let's set this to something like 5000, maybe 2500. Yeah, I think this is looking fine. Now let's add one more light at the back. So for that, let's press Shift A. Let's add a light. Let's press S to scale this up. Let's press R, X, and I'm going to rotate it by -90 degrees so that this is in the back, just like this. Now we can press G, Y, and let's move it far behind, somewhere around here. Let's go into the camera. Now we can increase its intensity. So I'm going to set this to something like 10,000, just like this. Let's press S to scale this up, and let's move this little bit more behind, just like this. So you can just play around with the intensity of these three lights, and you can get some really nice results. So I think this one is looking fine for me. So once we're done with this, we are ready to add some animation to this flowers and grass. So in order to do that, let me just quickly switch to the solid view, Now we can open up our timeline and let's see how to animate them. So first I'm going to select this and let's open up the biome reader just by clicking over here. Now select any of these on which you want the animation. So let's add the animation to these white flowers. So if you scroll down over here, you can see under the align, we have this option called random. So if I change this value, you can see that our flowers will move just like this. Let me just quickly go out of the camera and let's zoom in to see the movement. So you can play around with the randomness to add some wind effect. Let me just quickly do that. So we can add a keyframe for this. So in order to do that, let's go to the first frame. And now you can move your cursor to this random and you can right click and let's click on insert keyframe. Now you can select this and you can move wherever you want. So we can move to somewhere around 30 frames or you can just move it to 60. For this one, I'm going to just move it to 30. Now you can increase the randomness little bit, something like this, so that the flowers are moving. Let's set this to something like 0.1. Now you can right click on insert keyframe. Now we can move to somewhere around 60 and I'm going to set this value back to 0 and right click insert keyframe. Now if I play back, here you can see we have this very subtle animation into our flowers. Now if you want to make them move slow, then you can just increase the distance between these keyframes and you can just place them somewhere around 60 and 120. But for this one, I'm going to set them to 30 and 60. Now in the same way, you can add animation to other as well. So let's select the red flower and I'm going to go to the first over here as well, right click insert keyframe. Let's go to 30 and just set this value to somewhere around here. Right click insert keyframe. Let's go to 60. Again, let's set this to 0. Right click insert keyframe. And in the same way, you can select the grass as well and you can just do the same thing. So now you can see that all the elements are moving and we have added the wind effect to these. Now we are done with everything and our last step is to render this out. But there are a couple of things that you can do to make the render a little bit faster. So first you can see that we have this A and I'm going to select this, and if you go under materials, you can see that we have no materials on top of it. So I'm going to click on new to create a material and I'm going to give it a dark green color, something like this, and you can make it even more dark, just like this. And once you're done with this, we can change the specular and I'm going to set this to 0. And let's make this a little bit more dark, something like this. So now you can see that we have this dark color and we can probably select this, and if you go under the grass, we can decrease the density, something like 300. And now if I change this to rendered view, here you can see that we are not able to see any kind of green. If you are able to do that, then you can just match the color with the grass. And let's make this a little bit more dark, something like this. Now you can see that we have lowered down the density and we don't have any gaps visible. So once you're done with everything, we can render this out. So in order to render this, let's go under the render settings. And for rendering threshold, I'm going to set the max sample to something like 32 or 64, whatever you want. Make sure that denoising is checked, otherwise you will have a lot of grain. After that, let's go under the light path. And I'm going to change the total bounces to something like 8, and rest of things will remain same. If you want to have a transparent background, then you can go under film and you can check the transparent, something like this. But if you want the black background, then you can just turn it off. And after that, you can go under the rendering settings. So you can just change the last frame to something like 60. And after that, rest of the things will remain same. RGB alpha, let's make this 16-bit and I'm going to set the compression to 0. After that, you can select the file format to PNG and you can just output it to whatever folder you have. Once you're done with this, you can go to render and just click on render animation and it will render it out. So this is how you can create these kind of letters with plant texture on top of it. Also, the project files for this tutorial is available on Patreon. So if you're supporting me over there, then you can download it from there. And if you're not, then you might consider it because you will get access to the tutorial project files and exclusive templates that are available only on Patreon. So with that being said, my name is Abhishek and I'll see you in the next one.